Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mama Genius Festival / podcast because we get to do it all. There's been such amazing women throughout this podcast, and I have yet another one to bring in front of you. I know you will not be disappointed. Arlena is going to tell us about ADHD, how it happened to her, and how can we make that our superpower. It's not that we have challenges, it's how do we make what we are given work for us. I can't wait to dive in and bring her on up. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle DeKaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle DeKaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. We have Ernalee Shannon, and I am so excited to bring her up. She's an ADHD behavioral coach, holistic health practitioner, author, and speaker. As a child, had all the symptoms of ADHD. After healing her own crisis and brain, she spent the last 36 years helping people achieve their health and their well-being. It's her superpower. Her passion is working with children who were just like her. And I am so excited to bring her up to hear more about how we can do something with it. Ernalee, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to bring you up here.
I'm so excited. Oh, you're just so inspirational to me. So thank you for being all you are and doing all you do.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, I have to ask, how is the festival going for you?
Hey, it's going great. So many fabulous women, inspiring women, empowering women. And I feel like I found my peeps.
That makes my heart sing. That's what this is all about, finding our community and finding people we can connect with and do life together.
Yes, exactly. And be inspired.
Yes, exactly. Do it with a smile. And the funny thing is, like all day I felt kind of sick and I was actually mulling around at dinner and I'm just like, I don't feel so well, but I'm like, I know I'm going to light up when I get to go do this because it's just so much fun to have these conversations and when we're doing what we're supposed to do. And it just brings us back to what we need to put up and then I'll go rest and bring it back together. And I think that's what this is all about, is really getting into our genius and the things that we love doing. And on that note, I have to ask, what is your why behind what you do?
Oh my, you've touched a little bit about my why in my bio, but school was not my jam. I was one of those kids who couldn't sit still. I had trouble listening, some trouble learning. I was, fairly bright, but not where I needed to be academically. I was always getting into trouble. I was in so much trouble on the playground. I'd be in fights. I'd have arguments. I had a short fuse, all these things. I was disruptive in class. I'm sure I was my teacher's worst nightmare. They probably see me coming through the door and went, oh no, here she comes. Oh no,
I got it.
Sometimes I see my teachers now, they're quite a bit older because now I have gray hair, but I kind of speak to them almost gingerly, like, do they really want to see me? Do they still have nightmares about me? I was that kid. I wasn't invited to birthday parties very much, very rarely invited for play dates. I was very lonely, very much alone, and really wanted to be part of things, but just wasn't able to. So what ended up happening was I ended up getting very ill, physically sick. I spent 7 years in and out of a hospital, a big city hospital that was far from home. When the doctors actually told me, hey, you're well now, you don't have to come back to see us anymore, I actually thought they were joking. I felt so sick. For 7 years, I had been on antibiotics straight, never off them. I'd been on harsh experimental drugs, some of which were pulled off the shelf just when we started taking them because we all had such horrendous health effects with them. So I was left with all this sort of collateral damage of what had actually saved my life, right? I was left feeling like I could barely drag myself out of bed in the mornings, and I was in so much physical pain. I had emotional pain, and I didn't know how I was going to get through my day, let alone my life. And the thought of living like that just scared me spitless.
How old were you again at this point?
At that point, when they told me I could leave and not come back, I was 13 years old.
Heavy
Through
load for a 13-year-old.
Yeah. Also, most of the kids on the ward I had been on died. I ended up not trusting people, not making friends, because it just wasn't a safe situation for me. Socially, I was pretty awkward. I have way more friends now, and my life is wonderful. I decided as a young adult, I embarked on this journey because the doctors had no answers for me. So I embarked on this journey to heal myself. And I really lucked out because I found this practitioner who actually told me what was going on with my system. He was somebody who used muscle testing, used kinesiology,
Mhm.
and he could tell me exactly what was going on with my body and what I needed. And that was what I really needed. I need someone to give me the guide to do this because I was motivated. I was like, oh, yeah, tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. You tell me to stand in the manure pile at sundown. Yeah, I'm going to be there. So it took some time, but I managed to clean up my body, detoxify, lots of supplementation, high level nutrition, you name it. And suddenly, all those brain symptoms that I'd had since being a child, they just disappeared. And that's when I knew that for most of my life, my brain and body had been running on nutritional empty. I was so thrilled. I was so excited. I've had my life back. I decided I wanted to be a practitioner like the man who had helped me to become my trainer and mentor. I took this course as well. The funny part is, I had no intention of being a practitioner. I was just doing this for myself. I had one child and I wanted to work with my family a bit. People started knocking on my door. Hey, I hear you do this weird muscle testing stuff. Can you work with me and come with my child? He's always in trouble at school. And I'm like, how did you find me? Like I lived out in the bush.
Where was that posted? I didn't advertise that.
This is what I call my accidental career, right? The universe, God, whatever your name is for that, had a different idea than I ever dreamed of. And it's been far more beautiful than I could ever imagine.
I love that so much. I love how you caught the accidental career. That's like people, where did you find me?
Never seen it coming, but then the best things in my life I never seen coming anyway. So,
Isn't that the truth sometimes?
yeah,
And we don't know it until we know it.
that's it.
And I love it. I've been focusing on the Jamie Kern Lima quote, you're crazy until you have these ideas in your head and no one quite understands it until you cross this point. And then like, everyone understands. This festival's helped me come to my until.
Well, can you imagine being in a small community and attempting to tell people what kinesiology and muscle testing was? It's like 36 years ago. I had my work cut out for me. But they came anyway.
We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back to the attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths. Transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. Oh, we're back.
That's fabulous. I'm glad you created that quiz.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's such a labor of love to do all these things and then to actually see it come out into fruition. And that's what I love to talk. I mean, your concept and how we can help some of the other people who might be in your shoes you used to be in.
Well, I work with mothers. It's always been the moms who bring their kids to me, right? In 36 years, I had one dad come to see me with their child. I work primarily with mothers whose kids are having meltdowns, they're unfocused, they're impulsive, and we work holistically and naturally. So without medication, without the side effects of that. It's not that I'm not against medication. I'm just saying, boy, do it this way and then see what you're left with. Then you can, if you need to add something, just about everybody I've ever worked with hasn't needed to.
I love that concept. Like, it's not necessarily don't do it, but it's like, see what you can do first and then see what you're left with. That's such a great idea of like, let's try this first before we go down that route. Because I feel sometimes, especially with the medicines, it's more treating the symptoms rather than the root cause.
Pharmaceutical Band-Aids.
Yes. Let's mask all the symptoms, but we really need to get to the root cause of what's.
And I'm interested in dealing with why these kids behave the way they do. People usually say to me, but ADHD has a genetic component, right? So, I mean, you can't fix that. And I say, well, with almost every illness I know of, there's usually a trigger and then there's a fuel. And we know what it's like if we have a candle flame. If we snuff it out and take away the oxygen with a candle snuffer, the flame goes out. So if you take away the fuel that is feeding the issues going on for your child, whether it's blood sugar issues, that's a huge deal for these kids, whether there's just not enough nutrients in the body to help the body make the dopamine correctly in the brain. When you start handling those imbalances, magic happens. And I've seen it happen over and over again.
That's so true. When you put the right ingredients inside, like you said, remove, because if you don't have the wood to burn the flame, then there's nothing to burn it with. So you're giving the right fuel
Right.
to really get inside. When you said the word dopamine, I was like, oh my gosh, your whole speech just popped back into my head. And I'd love to go through some of that because I love your concepts on dopamine. And we were in a class together and you were telling me the way that I worded something to Liam. And I love that because I was telling Ernalee, I was telling the group about how right after Liam was done with this talk, I was like, okay, well, maybe we need to work a little bit on tone. And you were like, no. You need to tell him just good job. Down the line, you can work on structure and stuff. At that moment in time, like, oh my God, you're so right. My husband did the exact same thing to me. I was so excited about the festival. The Inspire level was almost sold out and I was celebrating. He's like, well, now we need to look at the expenses and what everything costs. And I was like, wait, no, not in the same breath. I just did the same thing. I'm like, Ernalee needs to help me.
No, just to train your family, if it's yourself you're talking about, to give you a dopamine boost right after you've done something great, like what you've done with this festival. And with your son, if you can praise him and tell him what he did right, what he did wonderfully, that's going to give him a dopamine boost in his brain. And he's going to remember that so that next time he's going to be more anxious to do it again. And for moms who are listening right now, if you want to get your kids to, whether it's picking up their laundry on the floor and putting it into the basket or whatever it is, praise them to the sun, make it fun, make it a game, give them a dopamine boost because they're going to remember next time, hey, when I did this, that felt pretty good. And when we do this, we can teach our kids that even the mundane, boring things of life can have a positive payoff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I suggest for women in a relationship, teach your partner what you need. If I've just done this talk and my husband happens to watch it, I don't want him telling me the things I didn't do wrong, things I missed or whatever. Just tell me good job, pat me on the back a little bit, give me a dopamine boost, I'll be happy. Then later on we can
exactly
dissect it and go over what would work better for next time. Right?
After we had that conversation, I didn't tell you this part. He walks home from school up the corner. I went and met him. And I said, can we have a do-over? And he looked at me really confused, thinking he had to redo his whole speech. Like I wanted him to come re-record it. I was like, no. I want the do-over. Can I just say you did an awesome job and give you a big hug? He's like, oh, okay, Mom.
Aw, you're such a great mom.
And I was just like, Ernalee sent me. I was like, thank you for the suggestion because it just put it on my head. I'm like, you know what? We make mistakes, but I'm going to go work on making sure that he knows what a great job he did and how proud I am of him. Sometimes we screw up or whatever, but what can we do the next stop? I was like, I made an extra effort, make sure I went out there. He's like, you haven't picked me up in a while, Mom. What's going on?
I'm not a little kid anymore.
So it was really cool. That happened right after we had that conversation.
I'm so proud of you.
So I was like, and I'm like, yes, that's what we need to do more of.
And you probably felt the dopamine boost yourself, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Just to see that smile again. He's like, oh, okay. She's not criticizing me. This is all good. Well, anyway, back to our topic because I went completely sidetracked. So what else do you suggest that moms do to help start this process?
Believe that medication is not the only answer. And there is so much that can be done with high-level nutrients for foods. These kids need more protein. They need less sugar. But I think the biggest mistake some parents make is thinking, oh, it's fruit sugar. Fruit is good for my child, so that doesn't count. Or, oh, it's milk. And yeah, maybe that has milk sugar in it, but that doesn't count either. Well, guess what? It all counts. All of it. So Forget that idea of what you've been told, what you've been brought up with. All of it counts. All of it shuts down. All of the sugar forms shut down your child's ability to make dopamine in their brain. So you don't want that happening. And if you want to balance blood sugar levels, and incidentally, that's the fastest way to get your child to be calmer and more relaxed and able to focus, you really need to up the protein content. I usually suggest, like, I'm a vegan. I haven't always been a vegan. I have been for the last about 12 years. And I suggest usually a vegan protein powder simply because it's easier to digest. These kids often already have digestive issues and have trouble breaking down the animal-based proteins. So a plant-based milk is often what I suggest with one of these vegan protein powders that you can mix in a smoothie. If you're going to make a smoothie for your child, forget about putting a banana in there. One banana is about 14, 15 grams of sugar already. So you're way over the amount your child needs for sugar right then. And then if you add berries or anything else, that's way over the top. And forget about using things like dates or raisins or any dried fruits. They're just going to push that sugar level up too high.
What would you recommend putting, like making a smoothie out of then?
I use something called Vega. It's like a protein smoothie mix, and it's got way more nutrients than just protein. If your child's a fussy eater, I'd say just stick to a protein. One of the best tasting ones that I've ever tasted just like ice cream, was Chuvani chocolate. It's a US-based company, and it's very expensive to get it across the border into Canada. So I don't use that one. But if you live in the States, you got it made, because I think they even deliver for free. Very tasty. Your kids will be fighting you for that one, right? And I also suggest plant-based milk. And oat milk, I know, gets all the, people use it in their lattes and all this stuff, but it's actually the lowest one in protein. So don't use that one for your child. I suggest unsweetened, organic, has to be organic and unsweetened soy milk. And that is the same amount of protein as what I call moo juice, right? So regular dairy. And maybe just a few berries. As far as bang for your buck and less amount of sugar, is your berries are your best bet.
Okay.
So just keep them frozen, and you can use some of those.
Nice and simple.
And avoid mangoes. I know. I love mangoes.
You're killing me. I love mangoes so much.
But mangoes, like a large mango, one of the big guys, is about 31 grams of sugar. That's after you take the pit off and the skin off. So that's about the same amount as in a can of pop. So
my favorite.
I know. Well, use it sparingly. And I also suggest never give your child anything sweet and a line of fruit on an empty stomach. You're just asking for a blood sugar roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes.
I have 3 daughters, adults now, and I had all 3 of them, but especially one I'm thinking of. She was very sensitive to sugar when she got a hold of it. Oh, yeah, you didn't want to do that. Trust me.
You figured that out.
Yeah.
So we got the blood sugar, we got a dopamine boost. Is there any other recommendations you have to help the moms getting more in with their kids and really helping dilute some of those behaviors?
Switch to water. They don't need juice. Their brain really needs clean water, not tap water. If you got city water that's chlorinated, at least use a Brita filter to take off the chlorine for them. And avoid the liquids, because liquids just go into the system and hit the system like that, and bang, and then you've got issues very fast. So yeah, and I also really look for the type of supplementation and the diet that is needed. It's what I call an ADHD-friendly diet, and I've developed that, and certainly know what can help these kids with the type of behaviors that they have after 36 years of, supplementation for these kids.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially going to someone who knows what they're doing and really looking at that diet and what the things that happen. I'm still taken aback by the mango though, but I'll let it go.
Well, have it for a special treat, but
Right.
you don't want to be giving your child a big mango, then you're going to be going out and you want them to sit still. It ain't going to happen.
So
So,
true. I love that so much. And it really is what we do, we put into our bodies and really taking accountability for that and what we're doing. And that's why I love how you just gave the idea of the simple smoothie, because when we get these ideas, we can still do things that are easy that
mhm.
really go into their bodies. Okay, good. When we really just try to put things into simple things, if we know what to do, we can make our routines a little bit more simple and put it into our schedule. But if you're in that situation, reach out to Ernalee, get that diet, and really start to see what changes can be made, because it really does come down to a lot of just the things we put into our bodies. It can make a huge difference.
It sure can. And I am actually full of what I call sneaky mama hacks. So
You
how to
are
make it work for your kiddo, right? Because I've done it with my own kids. I've done it with other children I work with. And yeah, I know all the tricks.
On that note, we're going to jump into our 5 questions for you. So number 1,
Yeah.
what inspirational idea do you have that you want to share with us today?
I've just shared a whole bunch of them.
You had a person or a book in mind when we were talking. I can't
Oh,
remember.
okay, right. Well, it's interesting because I'm not a big podcast person, but I have found somebody who actually is a podcast host, and her name is Tracy Otsuka, and she wrote the book ADHD for Smart Ass Women. So this is for women who maybe have ADHD themselves. And if you're a mom with ADHD and raising an ADHD child, that can be difficult. Anyway, she's very positive focused. And she says, "Are you ready to discover your brilliance?" I have just started looking at her material and listening to her, and I'm finding her very inspiring. So I'm hoping you're going to check her out too. You can find her at ADHD for smartwomen.com. I believe that's her website.
I love it so much. I love just hearing other people's messages and how we hone in on it and speak to the right people.
Uh, had ADHD, and then 8 months later, she was diagnosed with it as well. She didn't like what she was being told about it, so she flipped the script. There's so much that needs to be handled with the behaviors with these kids often. It gets them into trouble like I was, right? I wrote so many lines at school. You don't want your kids in trouble at school all the time. But there's so many gifts with ADHD. There's strength and courage and never give up and sticking to things and commitment and leadership. I believe absolutely going to save the world, right? I think if the world is going to be saved, it's going to be saved by people with ADHD. Truly.
Well, I mean, all of this is really a superpower. It's just that you think differently, and it's a matter of making sure that you're learning, even dyslexia, any of these things you label. They're really superpowers. We have to learn differently when we have them, and then we learn in such a different way. Back when we were hunter-gatherers, we needed different aspects to be able to survive. Now we've said that you have to fit into this little box, and these are outside of it. But really, all we need to do is work with them differently, like different nutrition, different things to work to make sure. Then the next thing you know, it's your superpower because you're thinking differently. You're already thinking outside the box, and you're amazing.
And that's what the world needs right now. Handle the challenges and embrace the gifts.
I love that. I'm writing that down right now. Challenges. Okay. So number 2 is we want to talk about joy. And what are some of the things that your family does that brings you guys joys?
We love, my husband and I, at this age, we don't have our adult children living with us, but we love to go and walk by the ocean. I love nature. I just recently had a picture taken of me hugging a tree. I'll be walking down the sea and there's this one tree that speaks to me, regardless of who's there. I just go up and hug this tree. Some people kind of laugh, but that's fine. It makes me happy. And I'm sure the tree appreciates it too. Being with nature, helping people, and just being grateful brings me joy.
I love that so much. Lily and I were walking through one time. You just put your hand up the tree and you can feel like inside. And I think just when we make more of those connections with everything around us, that really just brings, we pause and it brings out that feminine in us to like really be part of what we are instead of just doing.
Now people might look at me and think, oh, she looks like she's really joyful. But truly, I used to be so unhappy in my life before I got well and before I found the life I have. I know what it's like to struggle through a day. I just want to say to anyone who feels like that, just know your best days and your best life is coming. Hang on.
I love that. I love it so much. Which I guess leads us to number 3, because we were talking about that idea of busyness. I'm on this mission because I feel moms mask up and hide behind this armor of busyness. You asked, how are you doing? And the answer is, I'm fine. You don't actually want to connect with anyone. Or you answer, I'm busy, blah, blah, blah. So I'd love to just throw that to you. How can we, language is just so important. How can we word how we talk to each other, or the answer?
I don't usually ask those kind of questions. If you're at some sort of event and you go up to somebody that's new to you, I will often go up to somebody and say, what is it that you do that absolutely makes your heart sing, that you absolutely love to do? People are often taken aback and go, wow, nobody's asked me that question. And I go, well, don't you think it's time? I'm not interested in the surface stuff. Maybe it's because I've been a practitioner for so many years and I'm really interested in looking deep. But tell me what makes your heart sing. What lights you on fire in a good way? Words to me are sacred, and I know that once you say something, you can never take it back. It's out there for eternity. I'm very careful in what I say. I think we can uplift each other with our wording more than we do.
I love this question because I get such good ideas. It's so automatic in me, just the words, how are you, come out so quickly. Even now, as I try to work on it, it is that awareness and just trying to make a change. Language is just, and you can't take the words back. It's so vital. The more we're intentional about how you use our words and things, just the better connection and fulfillment that you feel because you're out there doing those things, which leads us into number 4. What is your definition of success and how do you celebrate? Because we have these society expectations or whatever people put on themselves. So I like to hear what people actually define for themselves.
Success. Well, it's different things to different parts of me. As an author, I set out to write children's picture books because I had one book that really changed my life as a child. I thought, if I can have one child feel that they think more about themselves, believe more about themselves or what they're capable of, then I will have been a success as an author. As a practitioner, seeing the relief on someone's face and hearing that they're doing better and that their life is so much more improved is my success. Yes, there's the money that might come with working with someone, but what really makes my heart sing is to see them shine. And it's pretty hard to shine when you're not feeling well, or you're just don't think that you're good enough, or why don't people want me to be their friend, or whatever it is. So to shift those things that these kids face on a daily basis, that makes my heart sing.
I love that so much. Which then leads us into the last question. How do we inspire that genius in kids?
Teach them that they're invincible.
Mm-hmm.
With the 7 years I spent in a hospital, I grew up thinking that had been a waste of my time, a waste of my life. 7 years thrown away down the tube. What I never realized is that even those hard moments helped shape who I am. Those years in the hospital built compassion in me for the suffering of others, and it served me in good stead for what I do as a practitioner throughout my life now. So I would say to a child, even know that the hardest times of your life are going to be there for a purpose, and ask yourself, how can I learn and grow through this?
I'm just sitting with that because that's so true. All these things, the struggles that we go through shape who we are to give back whatever we need to. And I just love that so much. But we are running out of time. So I'd love to hear how people can get a hold of you, what gift you might have for us.
Sure. Well, I've got my freebie that I'd love to send to people if they can get a hold of me at Ernalee. Now I realize it's a tricky name. So it's ERNALEE at empoweredmomsnow.com. Just say that you heard me and that you'd like my free PDF. And right now my brain has gone blank. I'm like, what the heck is my free gift? Anyway, just know it's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I put a lot of love and heart into it.
I can just hear the heart coming out of you. So I know that it's there.
They can reach me. I'm going to be opening up my Facebook group again called ADHD Healing Naturally.
I love that.
So you can see me there, and I'm going to jump back in there. So
And what is your final words for our audience?
I believe in you. Mamas, you've got this. I've got your back. If you need support, contact me, and I totally believe in you.
Oh, I love that so much. Now, before I put you backstage, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat. You said handle the challenge, and then something else. My brain went blank.
Handle the challenge and embrace the gifts.
There we go. I knew I had to write that down because that was going to be my first takeaway that you gave us.
Here is the title of the PDF, which I love so much.
Well, it's perfect timing.
It is Dining Out with ADHD, 3 Ways to Avoid Your Child's Heart-Wrenching Public Meltdowns.
That is so perfect. And
It works.
you're putting out the foods and stuff, especially when you have to be out and about. Definitely sign up for that. I highly recommend that. Well, thank you so much, Ernalee, for coming on today. It was such a pleasure to have you. I'll put you backstage for it when I go.
Sounds fabulous. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for all you are and all you do. And for the way you're raising your children. I mean, it makes my heart sing and gives me hope for the future.
Oh, that makes my heart sing too. Well, thank you. And so on that note, we're going to have to start with reminding you, handle the challenge and embrace the gifts. Is just that first takeaway. Handle the challenge and embrace. We can do that for ourselves. We can share that with our kids. So the first one is really looking at the meltdowns and looking at the kids' behavior, but realizing that it might not be medication that we need. Let's try to focus on some of the holistic ideas first. After that, if we still need medication, see where that leads us. She pointed out that ADHD does have genetic components, but remember, even if there is genetic components, we have trigger points. And when we take away, just like in a fire, if we take away the kindle, there's no fire to burn. So even if it is in the genetics, if we take away all those triggers, such as blood sugar or not getting enough nutrition, then we can help eliminate that. Which then goes us into number 3, which is about that dopamine boost. And even my story with my son, Liam, about making sure that after they do something, praise them for doing something. Make sure you give them that dopamine hit, whether it's cleaning the house, as Liam did, he just did a huge talk. Make that boring positive, make it a game, so then they're going to want to do it again. And then number 4 is really believing that medication isn't the only answer. She gave that great smoothie recipe with protein powder, plant-based milk, and a few berries, using that soy milk, that organic soy milk. So we can do things still simply and less sugar. So remember, even fruit, sugar, and milk, those are things we need to cut down if we don't want them to get that sugar spike. And making sure not to give them fruit on an empty stomach, especially if you don't want that sugar spike. And then number 5 then is going to that water, making sure we have that clean, unfiltered water and avoiding all those liquids and other things. We really just want to stick to the water and the things that we really need in our body. And what have we learned about ADHD and some of the things that we can do to start to bring that down a little bit and really just look at what are we putting into our bodies as the key element here. I just want to thank Ernalee again for coming on the podcast today. It's been such a pleasure. This festival is making my heart sing, and I hope everyone keeps tuning in. Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.